So excuse my appearance. I'm sick. I feel like shit. But we need to talk about something in regards to George Santos. And I'm like, this is important. Okay, watch this video.
Folks, another important speaker, another congressional nominee, George Santos. George, who we know is a friend, and he's known as Anthony DeVolder to me. So I don't know where George Santos came into the thing, but that's what it says here. He's the Republican candidate for the New York 3rd Congressional District, running against Pelosi puppet Representative Tom Suozzi, who is facing some radical left-wing Democrats in a primary. George worked at Goldman Sachs and is currently at Leapbridge Investor, where he quickly advanced to become one of the youngest vice presidents in the industry. That's very impressive.
It would be.
George. Anthony, whatever you are.
So here's someone who considers him a close friend who didn't know his name was George Santos. Now watch this video.
Yeah, we're the haters.
Oh, you gotta be here.
So my name is Anthony DeVolder. I'm a New York City resident. I've recently founded a group called United for Trump, so if you guys want to follow, that would be awesome. My question's directed for both Blair and Brandon. Well, Brandon's an idol to all of us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But Blair, I have a question. How do you think that as a trans woman and a conservative, you can help educate other trans people from not having to follow the narrative that the media and the Democrats put forward? And how can Brandon incorporate that into Walkaway in more in depth?
Yet again, he's in a public setting and he's introducing himself as Anthony DeVolder. Why would someone who wants to have his name recognized on a large scale continue to use this, basically this alias? On this post, where I shit you not, is that his real face? He has himself listed as George DeVolder. Here he talks about getting AOC to resign and says some really gross things. Here he's now George Santos. Here he is with his new BFF, Kevin McCarthy, you know, being that his vote was the one that got him his Speaker of the House seat, which is why he won't fucking call him on his lies and bullshit. And here he makes a claim about a cyber attack on his campaign, as if maybe there's some nefarious shit going on with his finances during the 2020 run. Hey, New York police, was there ever a report filed? Just curious. But I say all this to say this. His name on the ballot was George Santos. If that's not really his legal name, he should be removed. And New York should demand to see his birth certificate and his license ASAP. So there's a very real possibility that his full name is George Anthony DeVolder Santos. I'm fully aware that many Hispanic families hold two names because they hold their mother and father's name, typically hyphenated. But then there's this interview.
My ties to the Ukraine are very vague.
Yeah, they don't
to the
exist.
point where my grandfather was born in Kiev and left in the late 20s and migrated to Belgium, where he met my grandmother and then started a family. But it's just very vague and faint. We don't carry the Ukrainian last name. For a lot of people who are descendants of World War II refugees or survivors of the Holocaust, a lot of names and paperwork were changed in name of survival. So I don't carry the family last name. That would have been Zabrowski. I carry my mother's maiden name was DeVolder, which is the Dutch side of the family, but there's not many.
So in 2015, he created this GoFundMe, and it was to raise funds for Ironbound Animal Rescue. Ironically enough, Ironbound Animal Rescue never saw any money from said fundraiser. Super strange. And you can see on his Facebook page where he does use all of his names in a sense. He says George A.D. Santos, so George Anthony DeVolder Santos. But the GoFundMe, he specifically put it under a name Anthony Zabrowski. The name he just used in this video, which we know has never been one of his legally carried names. I think the real issue here and why he's been doing the multiple aliases in different places, from social media to introductions to people, is less about him maybe not having those four names as maybe his legal birth name, and more about if you have enough names, it's hard to pin down the crimes that you are committing, the fraud that you are committing. Because if you're sharing a GoFundMe under your real name, and you're using a alias name that doesn't even exist in your family background, which has been proven from Ancestry.com apparently, the likelihood of you getting like charged or having that like associated is less likely. Criminals, mob people, shady characters do shit like this.
Congressman Santos, what is your response to those that are calling for you to resign?
I will not resign. I will be continuing to hold my office elected by the people.
How do you feel like you're able to serve your people?
So the man you saw closing the door is Vish Burra, a Steve Bannon henchman and leader of the New York Young Republican Club. It is an elitist fascist network nexus with strong ties to far-right foreign political parties. Burra is Santos' operations director now. Burra has been seen with Hungarian ambassador Gavin Wax. Here's them all having a sit-down. Wax was recently caught advocating for total war against the enemies of authoritarianism. A pro-Kremlin neo-schmazi posted this. He's a hero. And here he is with Bolsonaro.